The first step of the offseason is figuring out what your coaching staff is going to look like for the following season. The New York Jets have a hole at offensive coordinator, and we got an issue with quarterback. Who are the top 5 offensive coordinators, and what quarterbacks could be coming with them? Welcome to Jets Talk. My name's Ryan. I'll be your pilot. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. If you've been here before, welcome back. I love having you here. Boys and girls, we are talking a little offensive coordinator action. That's right, the New York Jets are without one. We need to hire a new one. This is going to be my top 5 list, as well as the quarterbacks that are most likely, or that I think could follow them to their new location. So whether you're a Jets fan or not, you might get a little bit of value out of this video. So we'll talk a little bit about the Jets' current situation, and I'll go into each one of my guys as we go forward. So first and foremost, Mike Lafleur, not retained by the New York Jets. He was brought in with Robert Saleh and spent 2 years as the Jets' offensive coordinator. Really actually looked like one of our better offenses that I have seen in a very long time. I get the feeling he was a little too green to develop a quarterback. Obviously, we brought in Greg Knapp to be that guy. Greg Knapp tragically passes away, and 2 years of Zach Wilson under Mike Lafleur. We haven't really seen a whole heck of a lot of growth. So Lafleur gets the walking papers. They decide to mutually part ways. I think he'll find a job pretty quickly over there. So I think the idea behind these hirings are there's a few points they have to hit. One, must have called plays before. I don't think the Jets are going to go with any rookie offensive coordinators. I think they're done with that route. I think they're going to bring in a veteran guy. Number 2, you have to show some type of ability to attract a quarterback here, because I think that is part of the equation as well. I think it's attracting a veteran quarterback so that way Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh can win some games. Now, I mean, unless you think you can flip Zach Wilson like that in just 1 year and then save Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh's jobs after the season, I wouldn't gamble on it. I would think that's probably more of just the potential upside. Nonetheless, so let's go into it. My first one on this list is Brian Johnson. He is the quarterback coach for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, this is going to be a hot name. This isn't a guy that's been a head coach in the NFL before. He's someone that is going to be the hot ticket name because of Jalen Hurts and the turnaround that he has seen since Brian Johnson has come on board with the Philadelphia Eagles. He's been there for these past 2 seasons, and Jalen Hurts is pretty much playing at an MVP caliber level and arguably the favorite to get into the Super Bowl from the NFC side. He was an offensive coordinator at Utah, Houston, and Florida. His time in Florida had Kyle Trask looking like a Heisman Trophy candidate. Wound up getting him drafted as well. And then, look, I think if he comes here, he runs an exciting offense in Philadelphia. There's a lot of pieces to get excited about. I think there is a potential that if we bring in Brian Johnson, Lamar Jackson may wind up being the target at quarterback. Now, there could be a whole bunch of different options as well. Obviously, Gardner Minshew is sitting behind Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia. I don't think the Jets are going to hitch their wagon to Gardner Minshew, though. That's why I kind of throw in the Lamar Jackson thing. I think the running style quarterback combined with the athletic upside of the offense that Brian Johnson runs in Philadelphia might bode well for, well, I mean, at least we'll get an exciting offense, right? Like, we're going to score some points. Philadelphia has been very impressive this year, but he's high up there on my list, making the top 5. The next one up here, this is a close one if they think that they really like Zach Wilson. If they really like Zach Wilson, Nathaniel Hackett, the former head coach of the Denver Broncos, was fired partway through the season, his first year as the head coach of the Denver Broncos. So you guys might be saying, like, what the heck, Ryan? Why are you saying Nathaniel Hackett? I'm having shades of Paul Hackett, our old offensive coordinator back in the day. Can't have him in here trying to right the ship. Well, some guys just are not made to be head coaches. And the benefit of someone like a Nathaniel Hackett is that he failed in his first year as a head coach, so I don't think anyone's going to hire him as a head coach immediately. So his best route may be going through the offensive coordinator route and becoming the Jets offensive coordinator with Robert Saleh on the hot seat. Maybe there's a situation where the offense and Zach Wilson starts to click really well, but like something went sideways with the coaching staff. Then maybe this is another opportunity for him to potentially right his ship and then maybe become a head coach again. Who knows? Offensive coordinator for the Bills, Jaguars, and Packers. He had Bortles and Fournette as the top rushing attack in 2017. He had the league's best scoring offense in 2020, and he had Aaron Rodgers at an NFL MVP level for 2020 and 2021. And obviously, Aaron Rodgers could be the big name that comes in with Nathaniel Hackett. So this is an interesting dynamic, right? Because I don't get the feeling that Matt Lafleur and Aaron Rodgers are on a super tight-knit relationship level. There was a lot of kind of argumentative things that happened when he first got there, and basically Lafleur, I think, had to change some of his play calling to kind of suit Aaron Rodgers because Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers, and he's, the guy in the field. But with Mike Lafleur being fired in New York, maybe that means that Aaron Rodgers is a little bit more likely to make the move over here because maybe he didn't want to play under younger brother Lafleur. Maybe he's good with playing with a quarterback coach who has played with him at a very high level. 2 MVPs. That is a lot of cheddar and a big reason why Aaron Rodgers got his massive contract this past offseason. Along with all his other accolades, but a huge reason nonetheless. And Aaron Rodgers still stands by Nathaniel Hackett even after the firing. He says he's a good friend and he's a good coach. So I think there's a potential for Aaron Rodgers coming in here. I don't know what it would take to trade for Aaron Rodgers. There's a lot of financial side of things. Basically, his contract, if he retires, just cripples the Green Bay Packers. And if he decides to waive some of his guaranteed money that hits before that June 1st deadline, he will be able to be traded, and I think that's the route the Jets may look to go if they like Zach Wilson still. They may want to sit behind Zach Wilson's idol and allow Aaron Rodgers to try and win with the roster we have right now. And I think that's a really, really good option. I actually really like this a lot. And I don't particularly love Nathaniel Hackett, but I think Aaron Rodgers for 2 years could be just what the doctor ordered, as well as having the upside of maybe Zach kind of pans out. Not to mention Aaron Rodgers played in a similar-ish offense. I would think they'd have to blend some of the Shanahan offense with whatever Hackett normally likes doing as well. And since he was in Green Bay with LaFleur, I'm sure he can marry that pretty easy there. So Nathaniel Hackett, not a bad option. The next one up is a popular one. I haven't seen him connected to any offensive coordinator jobs. He's actually interviewing for the head coaching job for the Carolina Panthers, and that is head coach Frank Reich, former head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. Now, him and Joe Douglas spent some time together in Philly. They won a Super Bowl together in their time there. He was the offensive coordinator for the Chargers and the Eagles. He was the quarterback coach for Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck, and Carson Wentz. The benefit for him is he's already been a head coach and he has a full staff from the last few years. So I'm confident in him putting together a coaching staff with him to help facilitate the best learning environment for our young quarterback and for whoever we decide to move forward with. My thoughts is he may not land a head coaching job. I do think he's still a good candidate. There's not a ton of head coaching jobs out there right now, and I think this is sort of a similar situation to Hackett, where if he doesn't get hired by someone on the head coaching circuit this time around, he may opt to go the offensive coordinator route and then maybe step into a situation if things get a little dicey here, or at least prove that he could, maybe be the guy somewhere else again. I don't particularly love this quarterback situation. I think Reich could go with any number of quarterbacks. The only reason I have Carson Wentz in here is because Joe Douglas was brought into Philadelphia after Carson Wentz was drafted. Frank Reich was brought into the coaching staff the year they drafted Carson Wentz. He brought Carson Wentz into Indianapolis with him, and then he was Carson Wentz was kind of forced out of Indianapolis, and it didn't seem like Frank Reich was the reason why. It seemed like it was more of an ownership thing, and they got stuck with Matt Ryan. But Frank Reich has been able to perform or at least utilize a bunch of different quarterbacks. I mean, his most recent quarterbacks, Jacoby Brissett, Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan, and then obviously Ellinger the tail end of this year. But it's just kind of like, it's interesting. He's a veteran guy that has enough clout around the league that I think he commands a lot of respect. And someone like Carson Wentz, I mean, that is, I don't think Carson Wentz should be a starter in this league. I don't think Douglas and Saleh should hitch their wagon to him, but I do trust Reich as like the most experienced of these options, I guess, with a connection to Douglas. Interesting stuff. This might be my least favorite quarterback pairing. I'm not going to lie. Let me know if there's a better answer out there for quarterback, because who knows? Maybe there is. I don't want to bring in Matt Ryan, though. I'm not about Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's going out to pasture right now. The next one up on my list, this is going to be a fan favorite, real big guy here in the Jet community right now, and that is Greg Olsen, not the tight end Greg Olsen. We're talking Greg Olsen, the Rams senior offensive assistant. He was the quarterback coach / offensive coordinator for Derek Carr, groomed Derek Carr coming into the league. So that's why he's kind of like the guy a lot of people are trying to focus on, because maybe if you bring him here as offensive coordinator, Derek Carr is to follow as well. Now, you got to be careful with that, because Nathaniel Hackett this past year went to Denver. Denver was hoping to get the trade for Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers wound up not going there. So maybe Rodgers doesn't follow Hackett that way either. But you never know with Carr. With Olsen, does Carr follow him? Now, he's worked with Carr twice. He groomed him as a young quarterback, and then again 3 of the last 4 years. He spent the most recent year with the Rams under Coach McVay, which means he has some familiarity with our offense as well, with the Rams and the Jets running similar concepts. And I really like Greg Olsen. I think this is my top option. He had Mark Bolger at 4,000 yards. In the same season, he had Steven Jackson at 1,500 yards rushing, and Torrey Holt and Isaac Bruce over 1,000 yards. This guy can put together a very exciting offense to watch. And then the other quarterbacks that he's kind of worked with, he's bounced around between the Bucs and the Jags as well. So Blake Bortles and Freeman are the 2 quarterbacks that he's worked with in the past. Freeman, I think, is more of a bad quarterback. Bortles had some success, and I would argue maybe his play style with like the maneuverability and running ability, maybe that plays similarly to like a Zach Wilson, but Zach's a lot smaller than Blake Bortles was, so I don't know if he can take those same kind of hits. But the real goal here would be Derek Carr, obviously, and this is an option that I really, really like, because I think Derek Carr is the most consistent quarterback you can get, playing in 142 of 144 available games, and looked like an MVP caliber candidate under, was it under? I don't know if it was under Olsen. It may not have been under Olsen. It may have just been developing under Olsen. Either way, I like that option a lot. The next option is almost a 2-part option for the New York Jets. And it kind of depends on what happens here. There's a lot of rumors going on. I'm going to go and say Daryl Beville is going to be my other option here as our offensive coordinator, with the slight caveat of Mike McDaniel being the other option in the event that Miami decides to just pull the plug, get rid of McDaniel, and then bring in like Sean Payton or Harbaugh and go all out for Tom Brady or something crazy. In that situation, then I think we go Mike McDaniel. But if that doesn't happen, his quarterback coach and passing game coordinator, Daryl Beville, is going to be a popular option for the New York Jets, I believe. He was the offensive coordinator for the Vikings when they drafted Adrian Peterson. He was the offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks when they brought in Marshawn Lynch. So he won a Super Bowl with Robert Saleh in his time in Seattle. So there's a little connection there. He was the offensive coordinator for the Jaguars. He was the interim head coach for the Lions and Jaguars. Now, obviously, the Jaguars was last year, and a lot of people are going to look at that and say, I don't really like that, because I don't love the way that Trevor Lawrence looked under him versus the way Trevor Lawrence looks now. And I would argue that Urban Meyer and that whole coaching environment was not conducive for learning as a young quarterback for Trevor Lawrence, and he wasn't going to succeed under anyone under Urban Meyer. And then you look at Daryl Beville going to Miami this year, and you look at the turnaround and the explosion that happened with Tua Tagovailoa, and I think there's a lot of excitement there. You guys know me. I really like pulling coaches and players from internal division teams, because it gives you a little bit of insight into the other team, and it also weakens their team just a little bit and strengthens your own team. So there's a little bit of double whammy kind of action that goes on with these types of situations here. I do like that he was an interim head coach for the Lions and the Jaguars. I think this is a situation for him where, like Hackett, like Reich, maybe this is a position he could grow into, or at least show that he is developing a quarterback that I think a lot of people are not super high on in Zach Wilson right now. He's familiar with our current system, obviously playing down in Miami this past year. I think he can blend it with whatever he wants to do in these other, with the rest of his offense. Now, the big knock I think people are going to say about Daryl Beville is he was the guy on the goal line that called the play to pass the ball instead of running the ball with Marshawn Lynch in the Super Bowl. They wind up getting the interception from Butler on the goal line. They wind up losing the Super Bowl. So that's kind of his claim to fame almost. But I'm looking at Adrian Peterson. I'm looking at, Marshawn Lynch, and I'm looking at Breece Hall in our backfield. I'm saying, look, we may not attract the best quarterback regardless of the offensive coordinator that we have. Some guys just don't want to play in New York. But if Beville comes in, at the very least, he can utilize the stuff we have on our current roster in Breece Hall, Bam Knight, Carter, and those guys, and get the most out of them. I have faith that in the worst case scenario, we can have a successful offense regardless of the quarterback. Now, as far as quarterbacks that could be coming in, Teddy Bridgewater could be coming back to New York. He's the backup quarterback in Miami. Maybe he follows Beville up here. The other option, I think, would be where Douglas and Saleh want to go, would be Jimmy Garoppolo. Obviously knows the offense already, knows a lot of the coaching staff here. I don't think Beville would be putting together a full coaching staff. I think some of this is going to be retaining a lot of the San Francisco staff that Saleh brought in initially. So this would be a nice marriage, I think, in this sort of capacity. Look, I don't know where the Jets go. There's a lot of really interesting options for us at offensive coordinator, but I think the one thing that is for sure, the Jets need to have an answer at quarterback, and one of these types of offensive coordinators has to be able to attract a quarterback to the New York Jets, because we're not running it back entirely with Zach Wilson, and I don't think they go the rookie route this year. Guys, let me know your thoughts on the Jets offensive coordinator situation. Do you like one of these candidates that I mentioned here? If so, which one do you like the most? Let me know in the comments section down below. And as always, go Jets.